My name is Jessica Sacco. I am the Associate Director for the California STEM Network, a project of Children Now, and I will be your moderator for this session. Thank you all for joining. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself or say hi in the chat, you're welcome to do that. If you want to come join us here at the table or the film strip at the bottom, we can allow up to 9 folks. Just click on Ask to Share Audio Video and we'll happily have you here with us. I would like to welcome you to Connecting STEAM with Stories, literacy and science resources for K-12. You are encouraged to ask questions and share comments in the chat. As I mentioned, we do have a link to the session handouts pinned at the top of the chat, so you can access those. Got some background now coming from Cheryl, so I'm going to go ahead and mute her microphone just a little bit for her, so apologize for that. I already talked about the Ask Share Your Screen on the upper right-hand side, and double-clicking on the presenter's Jennifer's shared screen in order to be able to see that screen in a larger view. So I am now excited to introduce to you our presenters for this breakout session. The session will be led by Nick Glass with support from Jennifer Howitter and Renee Ousley-Swank. Take it away.
All right, good morning. If you could put in the chat, just introduce yourselves, what grade level you're at, what part of the country you're at, if you're in California or another part of the country, we'd appreciate that.
And perhaps mute your microphones if you can also.
Oh, thanks
There's
for that.
There's all kinds of noises.
Okay, so far it looks like most of the people joining us are from California, which excellent. So the resource we're going to talk about today is available to everyone in California.
Looks like we got some people from San Jose, Santa Clara, Elk Grove, so a local to me at least here in Sacramento. Central Valley, Stanford. It's great to see everyone.
Yes, yes. Oh, yay, Tracy, near me. Okay. All right, we ready to move on, Jennifer?
Yeah, sure. So today you'll see our agenda up on the screen. We're going to hand it off to Nick pretty shortly so he can go ahead and move through his demonstration of teaching books. But we're going to show you that, and then we're going to give you some time to kind of run through it and play around with it and share some of your wows and wonders on a Padlet that we've created. And then we'll also connect you with some CDE resources as well. Anything else you would like to add, Renee or Nick?
I think that's it. I think we're ready to rock and roll.
There'll be lots of time for you all to join in with your thoughts. So the presentation part of this is very minimal, and the insights and conversations, you can walk out of here with some specific strategies to enrich your stories, with STEAM and stories together, to bring those together. There'll be lots of time for that. So that's kind of how we're organizing our time.
Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and move on then.
Sweet. So I'm just putting in 2 links to help you all get started. There's the Padlet. The Padlet has everything already within it, but on the chat, we're going to be using the chat a bit to help guide you also. There's a link to sign in to Teaching Books, which is the state-provided service that we'll be referencing. Now, if anybody here not in California, can you just chat if you're not in California, just so I make sure I specifically address your needs if anybody's attending not in the state of California? Great. So then that's perfect. The state of California, the California State Library has provided this educational resource for every single person in the state. So when you walk out of here, you'll have complete access to it. For the next few years, you'll be all good to go. So you start by, if you feel like filling this out while we're going over things, that will get you signed in and registered pretty easily. And regardless, we're going to be looking at a link that's teachingbooks.net/team. So I'm just putting these links in here. Everything is in the Padlet. Every single thing we're talking about is in the Padlet, but just in case you're using the chat now and don't want to go off to that, it depends on what technologies you're on. And so welcome. If you want to go to the next slide, Jen. And the California State Library has provided $3 million worth of electronic resources for every public school student and every public library in the state of California. And so our entire state has access through to an Encyclopedia Britannica, to a series of 7 different products from a company called ProQuest, which are mostly all research and curriculum materials, and teachingbooks.net is the literacy service. And Teaching Books is, I like to joke that I have two children and an electronic resource in my family. I started and run teachingbooks.net. I've been at it for well over 20 years. I technically started it 20 years ago. We distribute millions of resources a month around the world to people trying to enrich their connections to books. Today, what we're focusing on is your connections to stories and STEAM, pre-K through 12. But there is a collection of resources if you keep that note. And again, I think this I put into the Padlet. If not, I'll remember to do so, or Jen can do that now to make sure that's there. But there is that one link will take you to all the different resources that the state provides, and it has immediate access. You don't need to sign in or anything. It'll put you directly in because you're in the state of California. Any questions on the state resources before we move into today's topic of teaching books and stories? Great. These are super important to know of because we're really running into an unusual situation with our hybrid schooling. And I want to make sure you know that there's Britannica, fabulous encyclopedia, even in one entirely in Spanish, 7 different pre-K through 12, mostly 4 through 12 resources that ProQuest has provided, and Teaching Books, which is pre-K through 12 as well. Next slide, please, Jen. Use the chat if you have questions throughout. That will always help us communicate. So this is teachingbooks.net, and I'll go to it live in a second, but there's just 2 other slides that we'll cover. If you want to go to the next slide, this one will give you, next one gives you a little bit of information about it, that we are a library of resources about pretty much whatever book you're using. So as you're using books that are books you would buy in a bookstore, not your textbook, not your primer, not your educational text, but one that's a book, as I like to say, whatever that means. For all of us, it's different. But within that, we have thousands of titles that are tied to STEAM. They're classified as relevant to that, and that's what we're focusing on today. And the link is teachingbooks.net/STEAM. And if you're already signed in by using that first link I gave, which is teachingbooks.net/home access, that will make your life easier to follow along and experience now. But again, everything will be is in the Padlet at the end. Next screen, and then I think I'll just take over, I think.
Okay, I'll go ahead and stop sharing then.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go to these questions. This is what we're going to get to in about 10 minutes. I'm just going to show you a few things, then we're going to go to these guiding questions. So to inform you, what's the word? To give you some advance warning of where we're heading, these are the secret questions we're moving towards.
All right, I'll start sharing and let you take over.
Perfect, thank you. Why isn't it letting me do that? There we go. Great. So right now, do you see Teaching Books on your screen? Did that work? And it's moving? Jen, I can't see chat anymore. So someone speak.
I'll go ahead and moderate the chat, but people in the chat are saying that.
Yes.
Is it? Do you see the screen?
Mhm.
I just want to make sure. Great. So what you have here is a library of instructional materials about whatever books are being taught in schools. So you can search by a title. Let's say you just happen to be really interested in the way things work. You can just type in the way things work, and you would get all the resources about that particular text. And there's the new one as well, so we'll click on that. But maybe you're familiar with this particular book. But for whatever book you're using, then you're going to have different kinds of instructional materials, from lessons, activities, movies, audio, and so forth. So you can search for any single title, that STEAM or not STEAM, on the top search box. I'm going to click to browse to give you a feel for what's in this collection. It's got all the resources about books, authors, awards, and so forth. You can navigate by grade level, by cultural area, by recency of the year of publication, by the type of resource you want. Maybe you wanted a discussion question, a vocabulary list, a audio book performance, a video book performance. You can also hone in by genre, curricular area, and so forth. I'm going to start by clicking on STEAM. This will go to the same place that the link in the chat box and the Padlet takes you to. teachingbooks.net/STEAM will take you here. So Teaching Books has essentially no books in it. This is to deepen your understanding and connection to whatever books you're already teaching. And so we have here 3,318 titles. And then you can see on the left side, and I'll make that a little larger for you, but you'll see on the left side, you can filter. You can say, I'm only interested in pre-K, or I only want high school. And you can see the counts of how the books are divvied out there. And so maybe we'll just take elementary school. I saw a bunch of fourth grade teachers when you guys were checking in and writing your comments. So I'll just pick fourth grade, but it doesn't matter. And then you can go through and you can either look through all those titles, and you'll see here that there's now 1,003 titles. That's a lot to browse through. So maybe you say, I'm really interested in just focusing right now on our African-American population. And so now I have 22 titles for elementary school African-American STEAM books. And maybe then I can filter it down and say which ones have activities. I'm looking specifically for some book guides and activities. So then you have these different titles. And if you're unfamiliar with the title, then you can click on it to learn about it. Or maybe you know the title. And so I can click on Whoosh, for example. And then you're going to get a variety of different types of materials. So our activity guides include a nonfiction read and respond, and that's in multi-level. So if you have some readers at a more advanced level, or a level that want to encourage them to think deeper, they're prepared for that. You have 3 different levels for that. The same thing with thinking about cultural representation, but you also have different kinds of activities. You could do a reader's theater script. So let's say right now we're in a hybrid environment, and you want to get your students connected on your online classroom. You could actually just assign each student a different character here. And one of you can be narrator 1, one of you narrator 2, and then suddenly you have a whole new way to bring that story to life while focusing on, by the way, what this book is about, which is, and I can go back to the top of the screen to teach you a little bit about that, but it's about the creation of the super soakers. And you even have here an annotation to teach you a little bit more about it. You have here the author telling you how and why he wrote it. Let me play a little bit of that.
Hi there, this is Chris Barton, and I'm the author of Whoosh, Lonnie Johnson's Super Soaking Stream of Invention. I'm going to tell you a bit about how I came to write this book, and then I'll share an excerpt with you.
If you have students that don't speak English, I can change the language to 109 different languages.
Schools I was visiting, and they were telling me about a class they had gone to where all the librarians and other educators who were taking this class were asked to draw a picture of a scientist. And the most common picture that resulted was of someone who cartoonishly resembled
So you have that. You also have the ability not just to learn from the author, but you have the ability to hear a little audio performance of this particular text. And so I can go click here where it says audio excerpt. And now you can listen to a little bit of it. Was the audio working, just to make sure? Were you able to hear it?
We were.
I can't see the chat.
People in the chat confirming they can hear, yeah.
Thank you.
Every day brought a challenge
So
for young
here's
Ronnie
what it sounds
Johnson.
like, a performance.
The challenge of finding space for his stuff. 6 Johnson kids were squeezed into their parents' small house in Mobile, Alabama.
Right? If you also aren't familiar with the text, remember, we're in this hybrid time. So how do I help people know and do some studies with the books? Well, we have the previews for about 38,000 titles here. So here you're going to get a little bit of the book as well. Even though we don't have the book, we're here to change your relationship to the text in its entirety. Teaching Books is providing for you some of the text so that your students can begin to get into it a little bit and to understand it and to get connected, maybe do an assignment on this one page. You're talking about writing, you're talking about science, you're talking about the arts, you're talking about technology, and here you can see all that and do an assignment just off page 1 or 2 of this particular text. You don't even need to have the full book necessarily. And so again, what this resource is it's all these different ways to bring to life whatever book you're using. That's it. You have a library here of all the materials that can enrich what you're already doing. Again, I'm going to go back to browse. I'm going to go back to the homepage. I'm going to walk you through it one more time. So you're signed in, and you can then go to browse, and then you can go to see all collections, and then you can explore what you're after. I wanted STEAM. This is the exact same link that was referenced in the Padlet, teachingbooks.net/STEAM. Then you can filter. You can just say, I only want books that are about science. So I can go to curricular area and I can just pick science. And now I have 2,644 books about science. I can then say really what I wanted were award-winning books. So I can go through the awards and I can pick any award, or maybe if you know there's a particular award, like you wanted the NSTA's award for best science books every year. So I can go to the NSTA, National, I got to go to get my alphabet right, but notable outstanding science trade books from the NSTA. And so now I've got that. And so now I'm down to 94 books. And then you can go through those. You know these are award-winning books. And then when you click on one, like this is a book about extinction. What does extinction look like? And suddenly you get to learn about this incredible bird and its life and its skills and how it works and so forth. So you have all these different ways to go through and identify and enrich your relationship to the book and story. The very last thing I want to point out is that you can share. Every single thing on this service is about connecting your readers. So you're right now here today, you want to take this knowledge and share it with your teachers. And you also want to take resources about a book and give them to your students at home or when you're back in the classroom. So you hit share this page. You'll always see the share arrow, and I'll show it to you again in a second. But I want you to understand that what you now have is the ability to do is to give everybody the resources with no sign-in required, immediate access. You can give it to them by putting a resource right into your Google Classroom or embedding it into your Schoology, your Canvas. You can give everybody a bookmark. So maybe you're working virtually, but everybody has their device. They have a Chromebook maybe with a camera. So you can scan that QR code right from your device right now, and you'll be right at this particular resource. And so you can again translate everything into different languages. But I wanted you to see that the sharing is everything. So you'll always see a share, the arrow here to share, and then within share, you're given printables. You're also given the ability to email, put it into a calendar, text the resource, put it into public domain, and all of that. So the bottom line of this is to search for what you're looking for. You could either look up a particular title. I could just say I'm interested in STEAM. You could then go here and see any book lists we have for STEAM or STEAM awards. So you'd learn about the best STEAM books, for example, that come from the Children's Book Council. You can then filter by what you like. Once you pick on the book that you're after, this is a great makerspace book, for example, The Most Magnificent Thing. You then take the activity you want. You really love one of these activities. And so I take that and I share it. And now I'm sharing that lesson with my other teachers that are also teaching this book. And they're going to have ways to bring to life the books that they're using to support STEAM and stories. Jen and Renee, or anybody else, that's what I wanted to share. what can I add or help with? And I'm going to try to find a way to share my, see my screen with the chat box. Yes, I can. I now can see the chat box, so ask away anything you want. Or Jen and Renee, please chime in.
I think that was an amazing overview. It's always I feel like I've worked with you often enough that I have heard your presentation a lot of times, but every single time I'm always amazed by the sheer amount of resources that you provide for everyone. Again, underscoring that it is free for everyone in California, along with the other two statewide databases, ProQuest and Britannica. So it's just the fact that we all have access to this amount of resources, such a powerful database where you can filter and search and find exactly what you need for your students. It's always blowing me away. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that Nick is always, the company is always adding. I mean, I'm always amazed at, I'll check, in a month or so, and there'll be a whole bunch new things that Nick has added. And I just really appreciate that. And it's great for students and teachers.
You're welcome. I just want to make sure you see that when you're taking this back, that you have all of this with you. Of course, you have support. You can always reach us for any questions you have. There's a whole help section on the top right here. When I click help, it will teach you much more about the site. I'm focused right now just on the STEAM areas and stories. One area I forgot to add is that when you have a book that you like and you maybe want other books like it, you can click this thing called Discover Like Books, and that's what's in the library world called a reader's advisory. I think of it as what else connected to that I might like. So I called it Discover Like Books. But what you get to do here is see what it is you liked about it. Did you want other books by the author? Did you want other books that had shared the same classifications? Maybe you wanted other books that had won the same awards. Or that are on the same list. This is on a makerspace list. So maybe you say, oh, wow, I want that's what I like about it. I want more makerspace books. And then here you have a whole list of other makerspace titles. And again, you filter and you learn and you add those resources and go with it. So as you're trying to take STEAM and always infuse literacy, I think the three, Renee, Jen, and I probably deeply agree that that literacy belongs everywhere. And that certainly when you're thinking about STEAM, there's a fabulous place for stories and reading. And this is just a tool to give you a connection and relationship to the book and to the resources and to get you jump-started, you busy, amazing, crazy, awesome teachers, to take it to a new place.
Renee, there was a question in the chat about how long the California State Library has offered this service. How many years has it been?
We're just starting year 3 of 5, so we have 3 more years.
Yeah. And then hopefully it will go beyond that.
Yes.
Should we go into the Padlet and the other questions? Should I turn off my screen and go to stop sharing? And do you want to do that now, Jen?
Yeah, no, I think that's good because we have about 7 minutes left.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and switch over to the Padlet and the questions. We're going to be letting you loose so that way you can go ahead and start exploring this on your own. We had a series of guiding questions to kind of help you as you play around with teaching books and figure out how to use it. So we're hoping that you can, as you're searching, identify some books that you might be able to actually use in your school setting with your particular students. We're hoping that you might be able to find at least one book that you would want to use with your students that has Black or Indigenous people of color. And then just some kind of general prompts. What's a wow that you found that's really exciting, you can't wait to dig into? And what's a wonder that you have, something that you're really curious about, but maybe have some more questions. Maybe you want to ask Nick or one of us some more information about that. And so we have a Padlet here for you to, let's see, there it is. a Padlet here for you to add this information. So that link has been put into the chat. You can see that someone's already starting to add some information. And then we have our links and resources and also our contact information here as well. So we have just a few minutes before the presentation ends. So just take a few minutes to kind of start moving around and teaching books. And then we'll want to stay like a minute or so at the end for Renee to go over our CDE resources as well.
And if anyone is having any trouble getting into teaching books, just put a chat and I'll give you a quick shortcut to avoid all that so you can just focus on the work we're trying to do now. There's a way around this I can help you with.
The great thing about this Padlet too is that you get to see what other people are finding also. And it'll be something that you can take away with you. So just like your own little collection of resources.
And within it, we put all the links, all of our contact information, everything we're covering today. Thank you, Jen, for adding the California State Library project. I don't think I did that, so you must have done that.
And then Joshua in the chat is really excited to see Danica McCullough use some of her Math for Girls books during her student teaching. Specific books are not in there, but happy to see her other books. And then Lene is saying, you mentioned translations in 109 languages. Do you have books that are only written in Spanish for a Spanish immersion school?
We do. We actually have a growing number. We also have interviews with authors more and more, not hundreds, not thousands at least, but hundreds of materials. If you, Jen, while you're sharing your screen, if you want to just go to teaching books for a second.
Yeah, let's see, I was sharing the specific tabs. Let me open up teaching books.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. There you go.
And so right now on the top of the screen, would you just type the word Spanish? And then you'll see on the right side, it should say something like, I can't actually read it because I'm not double clicked on it, but here we go. Well, no, I can't read that. Sorry. Does it say like on the top right under features, one of those like world languages or Spanish language resources?
Or a world language collection?
World language. So that will show you all the resources that are available in Spanish. And then you can go down there. Those are the movies we made with Juji Morales and Francisco Jimenez, for example. So Francisco Jimenez wrote an amazing life story about climbing under the wire. As a child, might become a migrant worker with his family and his deportation, then his experiences going to college. He has a whole series of books called Breaking the Circuit and Breaking Through and so forth. So I filmed him in Spanish talking about it. We also did a movie with an amazing illustrator, Juji Morales, who focuses on Mexican folktales. You keep scrolling down, you'll see the interviews we've done with many, many, many people in Spanish. They're talking in Spanish. We have Spanish lesson plans. We have Spanish book recordings. So we do have some. Again, our focus is to enrich whatever you're using, but we also have to have the materials there. I can't create everything. So the past few weeks, we did just do a few more recordings. And but we also have books like on the Pura Belpré Book Award or the Americas Book Award or the Tomas Rivera Book Award. And those are all about Spanish language. And for those, we've asked those authors to introduce the books in Spanish. So the answer to your question, Lene, I believe is probably how you pronounce your name, is yes. And there's always room for growth. As Renee said, we're always trying to add and to make this as rich and dynamic for you as possible. But just type in Spanish and go to our world languages. It's also under that same browse, under special collections. You can find it in so many ways, but that was just one way.
So we have about a minute left. So I want to make sure that we can, the last like 30 seconds or so, go over the last bits of our presentation. So again, you have access to these slides. So this is, you'll have this information if you have questions that you're starting to explore. But then Renee, you want to do a quick overview for us?
Yeah, mainly just remind you that we do have on the California Department of Ed webpage. We do have all kinds of resources related to distance learning. The link is in the slides there. We also have media literacy resources. Jennifer and I work closely together on that project. And then we have the Model School Library Standards. And I want to emphasize those standards are not just about libraries, they're about information literacy, and that really ties into that media literacy resource piece.
Yeah, and the Media Literacy Resources webpage also has information about the online content project from the California State Library. So if you are looking for more information about that, you can go to that website and find that information.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to thank Renee, Nick, and Jennifer for being here with us today and sharing this incredible resource. I know as a parent, I'm looking forward to diving into this information and sharing it with my kids' teachers. So we're now going to take a break before the closing general session. And if you hadn't already, please make sure to refresh your browser so that you can see the people link. You'll see on the right-hand side chat, polls, and then people, which will allow you to connect and send direct messages to other people at the conference. Please take a minute to stretch a little bit or go to the expo hall. However, we only do have a 5-minute break before the start of the closing keynote session. So again, thank you to our presenters and thank you all for being here and joining us for this session. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.